Welcome to the MySaw workshop. Today we're going to be working on Bucket Pod 2. Bucket Pod 2 is a continuation of Bucket Pod 1. A couple of things happened. I found out there were a few design problems and a few wobble problems with Bucket Pod 1 that I wanted to fix with something like a more stable upright pole. And also I received my little B camera, which I'm going to be using for simultaneous B footage when I'm shooting videos. And so it needed its own bucket pod. So today we're going to be working on Bucket Pod 2, and let's look at that. So with all my projects, I tend to gather all the materials that I need ahead of time so I can look at them and think about them and touch them and see how they're going to work together. And so here I've got all the parts that I've gathered together for this. I've got the little camera, of course, and I found this thing when I was looking at all my new video gear on, there was like $8 on Amazon, and it's a photographic lighting pole thing where a pole can sit down here and then another one come in here, and these can turn and adjust and move up and down. And so that got in my head, and so I needed some poles. So I had some 3/4 inch pipe clamp that pipe that really didn't work on my pipe clamps, so I sacrificed that, and it's cut off to the kind of the right length. And then so for the arms going sideways, I found this 1/2 inch pipe that's a little different pipe. I'm going to find out a little bit more about it and let you know about it. And the flange you go on the end. And so when I want a real long pipe to go out to the side, I've got a pipe fitting adapter here, so I can splice two of those together. I've got my bucket. We obviously had cats, and a lot of them. Well, we got 3 cats. We've had cats for years, so I use buckets down here for a lot of things. So that'll be my bucket, and I got some wheels, the cheapest ones I could find, really, to roll it around on, and some piece of plywood for the base and for the inserts. I've got some more scrap plywood laying around, and a 2x6 that I'll cut some spacers out of for the internal portion of this thing. I also got 2 different swivel devices here. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use. This is a little bit more economical and maybe a little bit more fitting with the with what I'll need. So those are the parts, pieces and parts, and we'll start putting this thing together and see how it looks. There you go. So the first thing that I did was to clean up the black 1/2 inch pipe. It's got some kind of really black residue all over it and the gum from the stick-ons. Goof Off is really not the old formulation of Goof Off, but it worked real well here. You just have to put a lot of it on, and I rubbed it with a scrubby and white towels, and you can see the amount of black that was on these. You really got to get these clean, or you're going to get all your hands. Went old school and measured the inside measurement with the folding rule that I can slide it out and get an inside measurement really easy. That actually works pretty well. Need to get the top measurement, which will be a little longer. This is tapered sides. And then I need to get the depth. So I wrote me down a little plan here on some 1/4 inch graph paper. That's kind of my most favorite way to work on projects and get my numbers down where I can find them. Marked off a piece of plywood I had, and going to rip this to a width there, and then I'm going to cut the 2 pieces out of that ripped width for the sides of the insert. So I got it ripped, and I'm cutting the 2 pieces on the miter there, and have my 2 pieces. I'm going to screw these together so I can cut the tapers on the sides, marking the tapers on the sides based on the bottom and the difference in the bottom and the top width. Just doing some layout here. This, of course, is speeded up greatly. Took it over to the bandsaw, just pushing this through. That's a 1 inch blade, carbide blade. I'm just pushing this through and following the line by my eye. It's turned out really well. And then turn it around, do the other side. You can see on the close-up there, they're just following the line really well, and there's really no tolerance on the bucket there. So it fits in the bucket really nice. Got mark the flange and cutting the flange out here on the bottom with saber saw. Make sure you don't cut into the side of your nice new workbench. Don't ask me how I know that. And I'm ready to take this apart now that I've got the tapers and the notch cut in the bottom. So I'm going to measure the pipe now, and so I can set up the spacers on the inside. It's 1 inch and 1/16. So we're drawing some markup lines here to where to set the insert boards that I ripped out of that 2x6 at 1 inch and just a hair under 1/16. It was the plan. You can see that they are just a hair under. You can see the board rolling, so put some glue on these and put a screw in to hold this to the inside of the insert. Make sure it's square to the top, so the pole is square in the bottom of the bucket the best I can do. And oops. Got that screw started, and I'm going to hold it square and set that in. I put the pipe in actually and then clamped the other one to it. And what I found out here is that actually I don't have, the spacers are a little thick now that I get them in there done. So I took the screws out and so I can just plane the ends of this and cut down that thickness a little bit. So the pipe is going to be slightly proud when I put these together. So when these squeeze together, they'll squeeze on the pipe. I'm attaching the side spacers to one of the pieces of plywood there with screws. It's looking pretty good. Finishing up attaching the sides of these. So I've got one side completely built now. Let's go test it in the bucket, see how it fits. It fits really good. This is inside the bucket, starting to look how we're going to attach the flange to the bottom through the bucket base. This is the base. That's 2 5/8 inch pieces of plywood glued up, and then some 3/4 inch runners there. This is my Lee Valley driver extension, which really works great in this situation. I'm centering the bucket up on the base there. I've got some marking lines there to center the bucket up, and then I'm going to pre-drill some holes for the 1/4 inch by 1 inch lag bolts that are going in. Swap over to my nut driver there and drive these 2 lag bolts in on this side that I can see. Once I get these in, I can take the bottom out and pre-drill the holes for the lag bolts and drive the bolts back in. So we've got all that done. Now that's ready. I'm ready to attach the second side of the insert. Just using some 1 3/4 inch square drive screws here, 4 of them down each side. Got that done. Putting some marking lines here. I'm going to drill 4 holes down through these inserts on either side of the pipe. Sure enough, I did hit some screws going through there, so I had to drill them. Put my 1/4 inch bolts through with washers and nuts and setting it down in over the pipe. As you can tell, it's just snug as I want it. It's just snug. Pushing it down there and setting it down in the bottom of the bucket. Looking good. Tighten up all these bolts. Took a little while to do this actually. They get really kind of hard to get to down in the bucket. But this sure enough did tighten up the sides. These are number 8 1 inch round top screws that I'm going to run down each side of the bucket through the outside of the bucket into the spacer so that this thing will not move inside the bucket now. Driving those in 4 on each side. Time to put the wheels on. Go mark out where the holes go, pre-drill those. Again, these are 1/4 inch by 1 inch lag bolts being driven in. I found it easier just to put them all in loose than come back and tighten them all up. So we've got the wheels on, and time to test the adapter that holds both pieces of pipe. So I'm putting the 1/2 inch pipe in. Got the flange sitting on the end of it there. It works good. It slides really easy. Let's see, I want to see if it's going to slide up and down easy. Just a 1/2, 1/4, 3/4 of a turn there, and yep, it's real loose and slides real nice and easy. It's going to work really well. I need a piece of plywood to attach the camera swivel device to it. So I'm just marking out a piece of this Russian birch plywood scrap that I've got. I'm going to cut it off over on the chop saw a couple of times there. And I've got my block. These are number 10 3/4 inch flathead screws. They're going to be great, perfect for attaching the flange to the block. I'm just knocking off the corners and the high points on this block here so I can put it through the belt sander and round get it even perfectly with the flange. It looks really nice once you get it through done like this. There you can see it. So we're done. Well, Bucket Pod 2 here is, he's finished, and we can look at a couple of clips here and show you some details about the setup of Bucket Pod 2. We'll be right back. Here we have the short arm version set up for a shot on the workbench, and the long arm 6-foot version with a completely overhead shot straight down to the workbench. Well, we saw the two clips, one with the long arm, one with the short arm like we have it here. We've got the camera mounted on a swivel mount, which provides me a really easy way to do the camera setups for the videos. The whole purpose of the Bucket Pod project was to make it really easy for me to do videos in the workshop. If you have any questions or comments, go below on the YouTube website page, and be glad to answer any questions and answer your comments that you have. I would appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Also, down below you'll find some links to my website, the MySaw.com website and blog. If you're building a shop or want to see some interesting projects, there are many different projects that are documented there with pictures. Y'all have some fun. Get in the workshop, and remember, it's not about tools, it's about the craftsman. Appreciate you watching.